Welcome to a new series. I'm introducing it this one time only, but after this, it will be Christine Joanna Hart. Inside the Mind is the show, and the psychology of human behavior is the theme. And we start with a bang with Christine Hart herself. Christine, great to introduce you to your own show, basically. Welcome to the unprecedented.tv stable. Before we talk about this breaking news, in regard to Roger Waters, tell people about yourself.
Well, I'm a Sunday Times best-selling author. I work for the Sunday Times and also the Daily Mail, and I have published a misery memoir with Hodder and Stoughton. I've been and visited serial killers, and I've worked all over the world as a correspondent for the Sunday Times and for the Mail. I'm going to be going in depth inside the news, but there's an issue at the moment dear to my heart about Palestine action being prescribed. It's shocked a lot of people. People are, concerned about free speech. People are saying that, they should have really prosecuted the people with the attack on the aeroplane rather than prescribing the whole organization. And now very recently, it's breaking that people's darling, the Pink Floyd member Roger Waters, that everybody adores. And of course, I follow him on Twitter. We've interacted in the past, and he's facing possible prosecution after declaring that Palestine Action is not a terrorist organization. So he has declared it online on X, on Twitter, and lots of people such as Lucy Connolly have been arrested, etc. for that. And as of Saturday, Palestine Action was prescribed as a terrorist group in the UK. That means if you declare public support for it, you'll be classified as a criminal, and it's punishable by up to 14 years in prison. And Roger Waters went on X to say, I am the Spartacus, stand up and be counted now. This is the moment. And saying that he supported Palestine Action. And he went on to declare independence from the UK government. He said, I declare my independence from the government of the UK, who've just designated Palestine Action a prescribed terrorist organization. And so his alleged anti-Semitic remarks have infuriated his former bandmates. And last year, Waters was recently dropped by music company BMG over his inflammatory remarks about Israel, Ukraine, and the US. So it's quite interesting that that's ongoing and breaking. What's your thoughts about all this, Lembit?
Well, my first thought, Christine, is that it's truly shocking. We live now in a society where you and I have to be careful what we say, because we could get a knock on the door being accused of supporting terrorist organizations. Now, what bothers me about this as a libertarian is that we're in the United Kingdom, meant to be a country of free speech, a country that's gone to war to protect other people's civil liberties. But now we have to look over our shoulders in case we say something about Roger Waters, which gets us into trouble. So my enduring, overwhelming feeling at this moment of breaking news, Christine, is that this is an example of the dangers of an authoritarian situation where rather than debating matters, we ban them. A cancel culture that could end up with one of the most loved musicians in the world, who may not be a professional politician, but him in the dock and possibly him in prison, Christine. That's what I think.
I mean, he is really loved. I mean, and the music he's produced is absolutely beautiful, and it's quite shocking and quite frightening for everybody. Especially the young people. What are we older people doing now about the younger people? They're upset. They see what's going on in Gaza. We can all see it. And the fact is, we could be next for this. We don't really know who's carrying these attacks out on the Palestinians. There's Netanyahu as a puppet frontman, but who's actually doing this? What is the actual agenda? Why are these people being wiped out? And we're just seeing it in front of our very eyes, what's actually going on. And now it appears that we can't say, or it's certainly getting near that where we can't say how upset we are about. People are afraid to retweet tweets about it, to say how unhappy we are about it, and it's little children being killed. And I think it's like, there's a serial killer out there, and whoever it might be, we don't really know who's doing it. Seems like it's partly the UK, partly America, that are actually doing it. Seems like it's their agenda. So who's behind this? Who is behind the Wizard of Oz? It's not all one man. It's not all Netanyahu. And what is the real agenda that we're not actually seeing? And I think, we're living in a fool's paradise to think, well, it won't happen to us. I mean, that Hunger Games scenario is something that David Icke has been predicting that is going to happen here. So it's happening over there, but I think we could be next for that. And certainly the 1984 Orwellian agenda that's going down here, as we can't say anything, we can't speak it too. It's really scary.
I mean, this is the sort of thing we're talking about. This extraordinary.
Among the bodies recovered after an Israeli strike on an apartment block in Gaza City. Rescue workers are trying to find the remains of others who lived here.
I was in the street and I was shocked to see the missiles hitting that building. I hurried there to help people. I recovered 4 body parts myself. I also recovered a baby from under the rubble, and this is his photo.
It's no safer here in Jabalia, where an Israeli missile crashed down near a police station.
Among the dead are women, children and old people. The Israelis hit the place with 2 missiles. Dozens of people got injured and the whole area was turned upside down. They waited till everyone got scared and went to the streets, then they fired the second missile. I didn't die today because after the first missile, I headed to a direction where the second missile didn't fall.
More than 50,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October the 7th, 2023. 2 million others struggle to survive an Israeli blockade, preventing food, fuel and medicine from entering the strip.
I mean, that's a pretty shocking situation. Those scenes really are gruesome, really. And in a way, what it seems to me is going on here is some kind of a recognition of the seriousness of it in these reports, but then a concern that I have that you can't talk about it without the risk of being prosecuted, essentially, and being brought to book somehow. I mean, it seems to me that 2 things are in danger here: lives, particularly in Gaza. Some Israelis killed too, but overwhelmingly the death toll's been in Gaza, and free speech in Britain.
It's like something has taken over. I think it happened with the COVID, and I think it's global, and I think some kind of force has taken over actually the entire planet, and I don't think we know what it is. I think it's possibly linked to AI. We know AI is controlling what's going on out there. They call it the gospel. So I think it's a little bit biblical what's going on. We're definitely living in a satanic age for sure. And it's actually really frightening because what we're watching is almost like a serial killer unleashed on those civilians. They are civilians. And the way they're suffering, the children, they're being starved. Are we supposed to live alongside that kind of attack against humanity? It's something that's really, really powerful, and it's not one particular race. It's not the Jews. It's not Netanyahu. He's just out front because UK and US have been involved. So there we are. It's something that's global. and it's creeping up on us. And I think we're almost being tested. We were tested with COVID. We were tested who's going to take the vax, who's not. And I think we're being tested with this. Who cares and who doesn't? Do you care about what's going on? Are you then allowed to pray when it starts happening to us? Whatever happens to us, it might be another virus. It might be more lockdowns, but it's coming. It's definitely coming. What's going on? I mean, AI is going to take away jobs from a lot of people. It's going to change everybody globally. It's only getting more and more intelligent and soon self-aware. So the planet is really changing, and what's happening in Gaza is actually part of that change. It's almost like it's at the razor blade's edge, and if you're not seeing that, I think you're sleeping. And you know, the young people especially are seeing it, and now we're saying to them, you can't say anything, and we're all scared to retweet tweets and to speak up about it, you know, which is not right.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but I'd say that takes us smoothly into talking about your new show. Tell me about your show and what's it going to be doing, Inside the Mind with Christine Joanna Hart. What's your goal?
So on Inside the Mind, I've studied psychology for many years. I've just qualified, got my diploma, but it will be my journalism. I've been a journalist for many years. I've worked on Fleet Street, sadly worked for the News of the World, Sunday Times, the Mail. And I've carried out investigations into terrorist groups. I've gone undercover. I've visited serial killers, Ian Brady, Kenneth Bianchi. So it's going to be looking in depth at people inside the news, you know, what's going on. And so it will be, you know, lifting up the rug and looking underneath. It won't be surface level. It will just be going deep on all the subjects of the day and what's happening, and hopefully having some good guests and going deep with them as well. That will be fantastic.
So essentially, I suppose I would summarize it as looking at the psychology of extreme human behavior, from maybe acts of generosity through to serial murder, and indeed war, which is a form of serial murder, well, serial killing anyway, because you don't kill one person in a war, you kill large numbers. That's in itself an interesting philosophical conversation, actually.
Exactly. Certainly what's happening in Gaza, it's like a serial killer has been unleashed. And I sat face to face with the serial murderer, Kenneth Bianchi, the Hillside Strangler, who had murdered 13 girls. And it's that same energy. It doesn't feel like a human energy. It felt like a million razor blades were coming at me all at once. And you can see that happening out there in Gaza. That energy is something else. It's not human. It's coming from somewhere. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's a non-human energy. And you see it just going into Gaza, loads of razor blades all at once, just decimating those people. And it is what goes into these serial killers that makes them kill. It's the same energy. And what is it?
That sounds darkly spiritual, actually, as in, seems that you're talking about a kind of evil spiritual intent. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've studied it for a long time, the nature of evil. Of course, meeting serial killers, people say, oh, they're evil, but you meet them and you realize that actually it's not them. So it's like meeting an egg carton with no eggs in. And so it made me look deeper into it. And it was sitting there face to face with Kenneth Bianchi that actually that, whatever it is, it hadn't left him. It's still inside him. And I felt the feeling, it was quite scary, that I wasn't top of the food chain, that I was either going to pee myself or pass out. I had that reaction that animals have when a lion attacks. They either freeze or they fawn, and they can actually go into shock. And I felt my body going into shock, and it just lasted for a few seconds. And he spoke to me and said, "Are you okay?" And I kind of, that energy, whatever it was, kind of left him. But I saw it. It was enough. And it was interesting that when I came back and I published my book In for the Kill, which was about him, I had a lot of intrusive thoughts happen to me. I had the most horrific nightmares. I knew they weren't generic. I knew they'd come from somewhere else. And I went to a Catholic priest and told him what happened. And he said, well, that's like a demonic attack. You have to pray. So I started praying, and it didn't work. So the priest said to me, well, you've really got to mean it. You've got to pray harder. So I started praying really hard. And it was only after praying really hard that they stopped. And now, if I have the same experience in dreams or intrusive thoughts, I just use prayer. You cover it with the blood of Christ in your mind's eye, and it just goes in seconds. So this is the cure for that kind of energy, is Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, we're disconnected from that here in the UK, possibly in the US. I don't know what's going on there, but certainly we're not out there praying to Jesus all the time, which I think we should be doing. And we need to be doing, because this is the antidote for that energy.
Some would say that that's frighteningly, how would I put it? Frighteningly religious. Some people don't like the idea of religion. How would you respond to that?
Well, no, they don't like the idea of religion. And actually, I'm not into religion. I was a Catholic, but I pulled away from that, though I do like going to their churches because of the ornate things and the candles and the incense. But I'm just being, they say, like, spiritual, but it's actually, I always say to that, well, where do you think you're going to go when you die? Because we're not going to last forever. And life here is like a bus ride. So we're getting on the bus, we're having our lives, but then we get off again. So we're really spiritual beings. You can call it supernatural. We're not really in this meat sack for very long. We're then going to go back into that other dimension, or whatever you want to call it, that other realm, and have our lives. So we can't really ignore that other realm, but we tend to. But it's not ignoring us. We've certainly got a dark force that is enveloping the planet, and the antidote for that is to connect to something supernatural ourselves. We need to do that, but we're not doing that. I think, the churches are empty. Priests aren't exactly telling people what's going on. Religion has been twisted. Often it's serving the dark side. Certainly the Vatican serves the dark side, I believe. They're into,
That's a bold statement.
Well,
I'm not sure I agree with you on that, but okay.
Well, yeah, I grew up in a Catholic children's home, and they passed me to pedophiles, so I might be a little bit biased on that. But I do believe mostly that organized religion can be really bad. I think we need to get back to our roots and just go out there and just pray and just walk on the grass barefoot and connect to spirit and ask for help, and pray for the Gazans. We can pray for them. We can do that. We can do that at least.
Well, there's certainly nothing vanilla about the position you take. I have to ask that I'd like to come on as a guest and argue the toss about aspects of organized religion. I don't think it's all bad. I'm certainly interested with the view you may take about the Vatican. I'm not sure I think it's inherently bad. There have been quite clearly very, very bad organizations which involve the kind of thing you described, paedophilia and so forth, in the Catholic Church and elsewhere too. Let's return. So that's inside the mind. We're going to start that very soon. Whether people agree with you or not, it's a compelling concept to discuss the things that you've just been talking about, the nature of good and evil, whether there's a real manifestation of that it's not just a metaphor, whether there is this larger reality, which we don't see if we don't want to see it. It's maybe hiding in plain sight. And then the connection you're talking about, it's almost a psycho-spiritual connection between the good, the bad, and the ugly things that happen in our world, and the forces that drive it. I want to finish where we started, though. I want to talk about the strange, in my view, situation where one of the most loved musicians in the world, really, could end up being prosecuted. Let's finish on this. Do you think that this is saber rattling by the authorities, or do you think it could actually go further? In which case, millions of people could be very concerned about speaking their mind for fear of being prosecuted and not having either the emotional or financial or perhaps even the intellectual resources to fight the state.
Yeah, well, of course they haven't, and support for the protest group is also, you can't really talk about them, and then people get confused because not really that many people knew about Palestine Action, so people then think, oh, you can't talk about Palestine. Of course they're going to think that, and also there's been a great kind of wanting people to see different sides and people to sort of see these people as terrorists, which is, and a lot of hating on Muslims and Islam in this country, led by Tommy Robinson, who leads everybody up the garden path. So that has been going on. So people,
in your view, again, other people I know are pretty big fans of his. It's very interesting.
sorry about that. He's had a
No,
couple
no,
of-
I'm just saying. Once again, it's an interesting debate. Where I stand on these things is the best thing to do is to debate them. What we don't
Yeah,
seem
I
to
know.
want to do is debate them anymore.
What I find about Tommy, he's anti-immigration, but only if you're Muslim, which is, what does that mean? Just why are you hating on Muslims? I mean, it's strange. But yeah, so this thing of not being able to mention about Palestine and to talk about how bad we feel to see babies slipping around in pools of blood. And I think that is tying up with trying to make us godless, because if you watch 3 or 4 babies sliding around in blood with bits of them chopped up, and you think, okay, I'll just go and watch Netflix, then you're committing evil. It is evil. So they're dragging us into being complicit because we're not saying anything or praying about it, or at least on social media saying, that hurts me, it's really bad, because people are confused now whether they can talk about it or not, because people don't really know what Palestine Action is. What does that mean? And now it's a group. People probably think you can't talk about Palestine itself. Of course they're going to think that. It's not being made very clear. Nobody's come out and really given us instructions about what we're allowed to say about the serial murder going on, or the dead children being, butchered. Please give us some instructions about what we're allowed to say. I mean, it's all getting very confusing, and people are ending up in prison in the confusion.
Well, thanks, Christine. We covered more than I would have anticipated in promoting your new show. In fact, we changed the course of this introduction because of the breaking news about Mr. Waters. It'll be interesting how that transpires. And I'll just add one more thought of my own, Christine. If Roger Waters is prosecuted, that opens a whole new chapter in fear and trepidation about speaking out, because people will not really know what's allowed and what isn't. And the question about moral authority for cancelling free speech is a whole debate in itself, and one I'm sure you'll return to many times on your show.
I think actually, Lembit, I think we should all watch the movie 1984 with Richard Burton, and it's quite interesting when he has John Hurt laid out on the stretcher, and Richard Burton tells him basically that he's non-human, and he says, humans have gone extinct. I think this is what's happening right now, although we can't see it.
Well, thank you so much. So that is a discussion about the breaking news regarding Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, who could be prosecuted, potential 14-year jail term if Christine's right, for supporting what's a prescribed, i.e., common parlance, terrorist organisation as far as the state's concerned. And then Inside the Mind, that is Christine Hart's new series, which she will be presenting. It's great honour for us at Unprecedented to have you on the team. Thanks very much for joining us. You'll be able to see when that comes on. We will advertise it, and you can always watch it again on our YouTube archive as well. I'm Lembit. You are
Christine Joanna Hart.
Christine Joanna Hart, and this is Unprecedented.tv. Thanks very much for watching.